Welcome to Tech Driven Business brought to you by Innovative Solution Partners. Nick Verhoeven, Solution Manager for Planning and Analytics at SAP, rejoins me to dive into how SAP Analytics Cloud's seamless integration between planning, reporting, and predictive capabilities is modernizing FP&A strategies. SAP Analytics Cloud continues to reshape business analytics and strategy.
Welcome back, Nick, to Tech Driven Business.
Thank you, Mustansir. Happy to be here.
Well, thank you. It's been an amazing session we had last time. Really enjoyed the discussion. And for our conversation today, I like to kind of give a little background on what we talked about last time, right? And we were looking at on the surface of what planning is and what planning brings to SAC, especially in analytics space. You are bringing both the planning capabilities and analytics together in the SAC platform. So what I would like to do today is I would like to start our conversation with taking it a step further. A lot of times customers look at things where they are looking at what benefit does it bring to me? What do I get out of this tool? So if I want to go and bring on the planning capabilities of SAC, and how does it compare to other planning tools in the market? How does it sound to you?
Well, I think that's great. I always look forward to a bit of a deep dive in SAP Analytics Cloud, so let's do it.
Awesome, great. So let's start with the most obvious thing, right? Whenever you look at any planning tool, you look at features. So what are some of the key features of SAC that elevates it, compared to other planning tools in the market? What's your take on that?
Well, that's a good one, Mustansir. But if I look at it, so this is my perspective, what I think is unique to SAP Analytics Cloud is the flexibility in an enterprise setup. So what do I mean? What I mean by that is that with its integration to SAP systems and non-SAP systems, using commonly accepted APIs for metadata as well as transactional data to create and maintain data models for planning, that they can be easily extended with flexible dimensions and measures and accounts for a user interface. And there you see this enterprise as well as business functionality coming together in that sweet spot. But then if you go beyond data, going beyond the model itself, you have user interactions through data inputs, analysis, workflow. And here, similarly, we offer flexibility through drag and drop and wizards to build entire flows for the business user. But here we can also expand into scripting on those same objects and using a single artifact, lowering overall total cost of ownership, but allowing for limitless flexibility. Now, having all these capabilities puts SAP Analytics Cloud in a true sweet spot in offering enterprise as well as flexibility, allowing for the FP&A persona and IT persona to work side by side on these different capabilities. And I think that's really unique to SAP.
Yeah, I think definitely I echo that same sentiments. One thing that really stuck out for me in this conversation is you mentioned flexibility a few times. So from your perspective, what you're seeing in this tool, what I'm hearing is from a business user's perspective, the flexibility is at a different level. Is that true? Like, what is your take? What are you hearing from the customers when you talk about flexibility and that business ownership on this tool?
Well, it's a sliding scale, right? So in essence, a lot of business users are not used to working with enterprise tooling. They're used to working with Excel. And flexibility is 100% there. And then if they move to enterprise tooling, they need to be guided to a certain extent. I have a nice example from a toothpaste company from the US. And what they've done is they've started with extremely guided applications, really having the user guided step by step using heavily scripted applications, which are more expensive, right, in the maintenance of said applications. But as the users gotten into it and started to accept the application with less flexibility than Excel, they've actually opened up bit by bit the functionalities that SAC brings, so that in a self-service perspective, that they can do their own thing. And with that, they started using those flexible functionalities for themselves. Still using scripting every now and then when they want to extend, but having the ability to create their own stuff, create their own models. And then they really started to appreciate the benefits of having a centralized database that consolidates all of the planning inputs side by side with a tool that is flexible enough for them to work on, albeit never as flexible as Excel.
Yeah, sure. And I think, and that's the key differentiator, right? And thank you for delving into the details of this. So what I'm hearing is, at least, you have two different paths. Once if you start off with a flexible application where a business user takes ownership versus an example where you started off with a guided approach and then let the business ease into the tool. So seems like multiple options available from how business can benefit from this tool. Great. Thank you. So now, and this question always comes up. I've been working with planning and analytics in the SAP space for quite some time. What would be your recommendation for existing BPC customers? What is a realistic path forward for them?
To your point, we get this question a lot because, of course, we have a huge user base using our BPC solution. Now, the first thing that I always want to say is we have tied our BPC support to that of BW for HANA, which is a long-lasting one. So there is no case of forced migrations of any kind, because this theoretically goes all the way up to 2040. However, it is the case that if you want to innovate, BPC is a platform that is being maintained and not expanded. So this is where SAP Analytics Cloud comes in as our flagship cloud platform, neatly integrating with BPC, so you can move on a case-by-case basis and build experience in a new platform. But no need. We're not forcing you in that sense. But realistically, customers have made major investments, and moving without any aim of innovation does not make sense. So my advice to BPC customers is to figure out, where do you want to be from an FP&A perspective? What do you need, considering the standstill of BPC from a functionality perspective and strong innovation in SAC? And create an approach that aligns with your budget and resource constraints, but still allows you to innovate the department, because FP&A cannot stand still.
Yeah, I think that's a key point you mentioned, right? And FP&A is this whole paradigm is shifting in this space, and if you're looking at a tool that is not moving with those changes and how the business is changing, over across the board. So what is the best way to move forward? Is it a combination? What I'm hearing is it can be a combination of you still having BPC in your landscape, but you're introducing SAC slowly, so where you can taking the benefits of all the new innovations that are coming in SAC, correct?
Yes, it's like that. That is the more typical. To be fair, there is multiple examples that we have from companies. Some immediately go for a big process redesign because they want to consolidate their tooling, meaning they will only have a single platform and they move it immediately. But that requires a lot of resources and budget. And if you do not have that available, but you do want to innovate, it makes more sense to do this case-by-case basis. Because it's a lot of change, and you need to be ready to do the change management if it all happens at once. So it's not black or white, but I would say case-by-case is more logical if you have a big BPC investment.
Makes sense. So that takes me to a different topic in this same realm of conversations that we're having. Let's think from a business user's perspective. How can a business user be more effective having SAC planning at their disposal versus other traditional planning applications? Can you provide some examples from your experience?
Definitely, because where I see traditional solutions having their place and mainly being very important to add up the numbers, they were also quite inflexible, up to the point that they were mere models of consolidation where data was simply added up. And with SAC planning, or SAP Cloud planning, as our marketing department tells me to call it, one can do instance simulations using the versioning concept, as well as running flexible driver-based and predictive-based calculations. So that's a lot of buzzwords. What does it mean? Let's take the example of our reference customer Roche. They are a big pharmaceutical company in France, and in their R&D expense planning, which is of course, key as a pharmaceutical company. They had to produce about 20,000 data points each and every time that they run this iteration. And they, using our predictive functionality, have automated 16,000 out of them. So this is where they've used the embedded predictive capabilities in SAP Analytics Cloud for Planning to automate, to a certain extent, their planning process. Not all of it, because not all is automatable, right? But they've used the points that are predictable, used predictive for that. And with that, they got to focus on those 4,000 points that are currently not that predictable. And they've increased their accuracy. So this is really innovating the department, doing more with less, and focus on where it matters for the people.
I think that is something that it is a lot of times it's not very obvious, especially, you mentioned predictive capabilities, and especially a lot of customers, but when you think about the traditional planning applications and tools available, a lot of times they don't even have those capabilities available. So having this at your from a business user's perspective, having this available at the disposal, it just gives them a lot more flexibility as well as control on what they are trying to get out of the tool. So it just definitely, I think, puts them in a different level compared to how the traditional planning applications work in the past. Now, you used the example of Roche. How often do you see like predictive being part of the planning solutions in terms of folks or customers using SAC? Is this pretty prevalent, or is it just trying to catch on now? What is your take on that?
I wouldn't dare say that it's only starting to catch on, because from the very beginning, there were customers experimenting with this. But I think since we've released, and this was 2021, 2022, the ability to directly write back into planning versions from predictions, this has really taken off. And I actually myself have done an internal project with our central forecast team, where for our central forecast, so this is at a higher group level, we do the entire P&L using Smart Predict. And I've trained a number of the controllers to apply Smart Predict, or the predictive functionality in SAP Analytics Cloud, on their planning models. And not all accounts were automatable, but the ones that were are now being utilized. And we see those controllers applying it themselves, because the focus of our predictive is that it's very much business user based. However, we are heavily investing in this. So you say, what is the difference of a modern tool? And I think that we are going to, and this is in our statement of direction, we are going to infuse artificial intelligence into each and every workflow of SAP Analytics Cloud for Planning. So this will go from version management to data management to scripting. All of that will get artificial intelligence, and this will even more widen the user base that's able to work with SAP Analytics Cloud for Planning. First release is being mentioned on TechEd, which is currently ongoing, and their Just Ask has been presented as the natural language query ability that we will get in SAP Analytics Cloud, also on planning models.
Yeah, I think that is really good news. I mean, a lot of customers that have been thinking about that, and now, as you already kind of took the initiative of sharing that information with us, this is awesome. Because what I see, especially in this area, when you allow the business users to be more in control, and this kind of capabilities with AI being becoming more forefront in a lot of these scenarios, and you have that tool that is already having those capabilities, where it's allowing the business to take more control of their planning process. I think that's the wave of the future, basically. So, talking from that angle, let's take a step back. We analytical applications, they've been around for some time. Can you use or share with us a use case where analytical application is required for a planning project?
Yeah, sure I can. So an analytical application is now embedded within the story, right? So it's a single artifact. But looking at the scripting functionalities of the unified story, so the former analytical application, we can devise a use case, and this of course comes from practice, but I'm not allowed to call the customer name. But let us just imagine I am a regional manager at a supermarket and I'm on the road. This regional manager then needs to analyze financial performance as well as subjective scores on cleanliness of the stores and such. On entry, so I enter this local supermarket, I desire to input set scores on my iPad, and I would like to also compare these to the financial performance. After these inputs have been done, I want to sit down with the local manager and I want to figure out how can we tweak the local forecast numbers based on the latest actuals and market expectations. And in this situation, where I need this flexibility on my mobile device, it is clear that I want a mobile experience and an easy way to input the numbers, say in entry form with sliders. And having this is not standard. Of course, we have the ability to add sliders, but how do we make sure that it writes back in the correct position of our planning model? And this can be easily achieved using the scripting functionality. This is an alternate way to leverage standard functionality, but then through scripts. So in this way, we will feed the sliders into the model. We will make sure that we have a guided experience for a supermarket manager that is not necessarily someone that can build applications themselves. And we actually see many specific requirements being fulfilled in this way to really guide users through a process. Think about pop-ups entering the screen, sliding screens as you go through them. Extra relevant for infrequent use, where a user can make do with minimal SAC training to what is needed using the scripts. You can really simplify their whole experience. And I think that is key functionality where the scripting can help to either hide what could be viewed as a complex experience, or to extend functionality that is just needed in that specific case, like the regional supermarket manager here.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. Especially, I like the fact that you're taking that extra step to make it easier for an end user who is maybe he or she may not be as comfortable with the application. How can you make it their job function easier to handle depending on the requirement, right? And I see analytical applications becoming a key factor in those kind of scenarios where you have the ability as a user to do things on the fly, but as long as you have the minimal training given to you. That makes a lot of sense. So I think we talked about a lot of different things today. We are coming to the end of our session. Based on what we have covered so far, what is that one key takeaway that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I'd say there is really a new world of possibilities in the world of planning today. And we've discussed a few with scripting and flexibility, but there is much more to explore now, with AI also being infused into the platform like we mentioned. With that, it only becomes useful if we get to tie it to a specific strategy. Where does FP&A see themselves in the next 1 to 5 years in the world of AI, autonomous finance, and big data? And then we would want to see that you use that strategic vision and turn it into reality using rapidly evolving platform with the latest technology in the cloud, because that's the only place where this innovation can be offered. I would, of course, say look at SAP Analytics Cloud, but my colleagues will tell you that you also have to look at SAP DataSphere to have the surrounding data fabric. So really look at all the innovations ongoing, but always look at them into the respect of where is your FP&A strategy heading. You have a vision, you have something that you want to deliver on, and how can technology help you with that? And then as soon as you map that out, I'm quite sure the experts are more than willing to guide you in that.
Yeah, I think that's a great takeaway, especially you mentioned DataSphere, right? I mean, you think about technology, you think about cloud, all of it needs to be put together in a nice data mesh, in terms of how you bring it all in one platform. And of course, cloud is the way to go. So great insight on that one. I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure having you on our show. And we'll definitely like to share this information with our listeners and make sure that they get the benefit of what you're to share today with us. So again, thank you.
Most welcome, Mustansir. Looking forward to see the recording.
Thanks for listening to Tech Driven Business, brought to you by Innovative Solution Partners. Nick Verhoeven, highlighted the dynamic evolution of SAP Analytics Cloud, emphasizing its integrative power within business planning and forecasting. His key takeaway: with continuous technology developments, make sure you have a vision and then see how technology can help you achieve it. We would love to hear from you. Continue the conversation by connecting with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Learn more about Innovative Solution Partners and schedule a free consultation by visiting isolutionpartners.com. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Information is in the show notes.